Are we on? Is this thing on live? We are live in 3 places this morning, folks. Hope everybody's having a great weekend. I am live on Instagram here directly in front of me. I am live on TikTok here to my right, and I'm live on YouTube. We're gonna see how this YouTube live thing goes. We're gonna see if this is worth continuing. So I'm live in 3 places at the same time, using a lot of bandwidth this morning. Hope everybody's having a great week, great start to your week. Had a great weekend. We are talking here today about public speaking. I talk to a lot of people who want to become better public speakers, people who understand the value of public speaking, people maybe you want to become a better public speaker because you want to do things like live streams like this. Maybe you want to be a professional speaker. Maybe you want to do a TED Talk. Maybe you need to give a pick me up, or you want to step the game up of the people on your team and in your business, something like that. And you may understand what you should understand. I want to make sure all of you get this, that public speaking is a force multiplier, is also a future-proof skill. And you always want to be developing anything that falls into these 2 categories. A force multiplier is any ability, tool, what's going on, any ability, tool, or asset that using it makes the value of everything else you have better. Public speaking is one of those force multipliers, because the better you are at public speaking, the better you'll be at everything else that you do. It's also a future-proof skill, which means the skill that you developed in public speaking will always be valuable, regardless of what happens in technology. And any question a while ago, this was a long time ago, I was on this app called Quora, which is the place where you can basically source the answer and give them answers to the questions. I answered this question on Quora, and the points that I share in that answer, I'm going to share right here with all of you. So you want how you can get better at being a speaker, and a person who asks to get better, but I don't really do tricks of. I'm going to talk about some keys to public speaking, ways you can get better at public speaking, and why. Again, I'm going to explain as I talk through this why these are useful abilities. So everybody got it? And again, these will help you in any way, in any form, in anything that you do in life, regardless of what you're doing. If you're better at public speaking, it will make you better at everything else you do. So introducing myself. My name is Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. Former 9-year pro athlete, author, 35 books on 4 TEDx talks. Create this brand called Work on Your Game, where we extract the tools to help athletes get to the top of the sports world. We translate those tools over to the business and professional world to help you perform at your highest level, do so consistently, and produce more results in your business and in your life. We do personal and professional development over here, all based on producing results. So the first point, and again, I'm going to give you 6 of these here, of public speaking tools that you need. Number 1, speak about a topic that you actually know. This is a really good start. Really good start to getting good at public speaking, folks, is speak about a topic that you actually know. Talk about something where you know your stuff. You have the knowledge, you have the material, you have useful info. You are giving value to your audience and things that they can actually use, because you are sharing something that maybe they didn't know, or maybe they haven't considered that, or maybe they haven't thought about it in that way. So you need to speak from a position of knowledge. Speak from a position of knowing about the very simple key. This the most is not that they're speaking about something that they don't know, but they don't have an angle that allows people to, you got to have the ability to get it in. So sometimes I could be talking about a subject that you heard of before. For example, none of you is just for the first time in your life ever hearing of the concept. This is not the first time you ever heard of it before, right? But the way that I'm going to talk about it and the way that I'm going to break this down and explain it may give you a different perspective and a different insight on public speaking, even though it's not the first time you ever heard anybody talk about it. So even if you're about a subject that people have heard before, and usually people don't listen to something unless they have some idea or connection to the subject itself. So this is usually the case. You want to pick a subject in which you can actually offer value. And again, offering value doesn't mean you're giving people something brand new that they have never, ever thought about. It means you're giving people a new perspective that they may not That's really what you want to be doing when it comes to public speaking. Number one, pick up. I say knowing, that means you have actually done, you have not just heard them or read them or watched them. Because if that's all you're talking from, people are usually going to catch on to that you're just speaking from, let's just say, from a perspective of consuming, and then you're regurgitating what you've consumed. That's not good enough. Pick a subject in which you have some actual life experience, things where you had, as they say, boots on the ground. You've been 10 toes deep in doing the thing. Number two, we're talking public speaking skills here that you can use. Number two, have experience in the thing that you are talking about. In other words, have some story that gives you, that lends credibility to whatever it is that you talk about. So if I come up here and I talk about being disciplined, I can give you some stories about discipline and some reasons why, and some stories about discipline that will lend credibility to anything that I'm saying. Some anecdotes, whether they are my personal experiences, whether they're things I saw other people do, whether they're things I helped other people do. The point is, when you add story to any information that you're sharing, a couple things happen. Number one, people are much more likely to follow along, because it's very hard to follow along with information. People get very bored very quickly with information, even though everybody says they want information. And when you are sharing story, it lends, again, credibility to everything that you are saying, because it shows people that you have actually done the thing. You're not just talking about it. And again, story is easier to follow. It's easier to follow a narrative, follow information. Information causes people to kind of fall asleep if you're just giving them information, even if it's information that they want. Who's going to be a speaker? Key tip that I can give you is add story in with information. So any information you want to give to people, some story to go along, and it becomes much easier to digest, so to speak. Because again, we are entertained by stories. We are only informed by information. And if you are just informed, there's a very tiny percentage of people who can maintain their focus and attention when all they're getting is information. Whereas everybody else in the population will maintain attention and focus if you're telling them a good story. So use your story to give the information. Everybody understand it? Now, the thing is, if you don't have any experience in the thing that you're talking about, well, you can't, because you don't have stories. So this is why you want to talk about something in which you have some experience, that you have some story you can give. The point. A story, weeks and months and years later, they will not remember information. The only industries where I've seen where people really can just take in a bunch of information and not fall asleep is like the medical spaces. So people who work in any type of medical space. So like any type of pharmaceutical event, or dentists, chiropractors, doctors, those type of people. Somebody can get on the stage at one of their events and just give information for an hour straight, and people will actually listen to it. Every other industry, marketing, business, sales, personal development, professional development, any leadership, any of those, you have to mix in some stories, some entertainment that entertains the human brain, not just informs it. Information alone is not enough to keep most people's attention. Number three, we're talking here today about how to be a better public speaker. 6 keys I'm going to give you. Number three, actually care about the subject that you're talking about. Just because you have experience in something does not mean you should be speaking about it in a public forum. You need to care about the subject. I'm going to give you some examples, and I'm going to tell you why this matters. First, let me tell you why it matters. Why does it matter that you care about the subject? Because remember that most communication, folks, is nonverbal. It is not what you say. It is how you say it and the energy with which you. And people can tell when you're talking about a subject that you simply don't care about. They won't care because you don't care. You want other people to listen to what you're saying. You have to believe that people should listen to what you're saying. And that comes through in the conviction and the energy behind the words that you say. If there's no conviction and energy behind the words that you say, it's usually because you don't care about what you're talking about. And if you don't care, other people don't care. Remember that sales, folks, is a transfer of energy. Sales is a transfer of energy. And when you get other people to get the same energy that you have, to have the same energy that you have around the thing that you're talking about, that's when they are willing to listen to you, regardless of what you are saying. Your energy is what gets people's attention. And then what you're saying is what they catch on to second. So you must pick a subject that you care about, even if you have experience in something and you know it really well, but you don't care. You have no passion, energy, no reason for talking about it. Then it's going to fall on deaf ears. Give you an example. When I was in high school, I worked at McDonald's. I worked at McDonald's for a year. So I know how to work the fry machine. I know how to make burgers. I know how to make a McFlurry. I know how to ring the orders up in the computer, or at least I used to when I was working there. They probably changed the system since I've been there, but I knew how to do that stuff. I have enough experience. I could make burgers. I have no energy. I'm not interested in the subject. Therefore, speech about it, people could tell that I don't really care, and they're not going to care. So when people can read that you don't care, they won't care. And by the way, I'll answer all questions at the end. So anybody got a question or comment, put it in the comment section. I'll address it at the end. So people had to believe that you care in order for them to care. That's why you had to pick a topic that you actually care about. What they say in the sales world, that emotions sell and facts merely tell. So if you want to just tell people stuff, you can get them all the fact information. To sell people and move into action, put some emotion and energy into what you're saying, and or what you say has to touch other people's emotions and their feelings. If you don't do either one, then there's no way you can move another person to action. And they appreciate your information, but they don't do anything. You just give people information with but they will just take information alone that doesn't touch them emotionally, and it doesn't come from an emotional place and do something with it. Even though everybody says they will, most people do not do that. Okay, most people need to be touched emotionally in order to be moved to action. So remember that anywhere from 70 to 95% of communication, depending on who you ask, is nonverbal communication. So you must make sure that you are giving people something that touches them on that level in order to get them to buy into you. They buy into the energy first, and they buy into the information second. All right. If you remember anything, remember that. They buy the energy first, they buy the information second. And again, information alone is not enough to move people to action. Even though, again, most people say the only thing they need right now is information. It's nonsense. No, they don't. Most people, you give them information, they do absolutely nothing with it. How many of you have information that you're not acting on right now in your life? Exactly. Everybody does. Moving on, point number 4. We're talking about public speaking, keys to being a better public speaker. Point number 4, dress well. You want to be a good public speaker, you need to dress well. Now, let me be clear what I mean when I say dress well. It doesn't mean you need to put on a suit like I have on a suit. Dressing well means you need to dress for your audience, and you should look like the part of the person who should be in the front of the room if you're going to be speaking to an audience, whoever that audience is. And that audience might be different people depending on the subject. If you're talking to a bunch of hockey players, for example, you don't necessarily have to have on a suit, because hockey players, you don't wear a suit when you're playing hockey. All right, you wear a hockey outfit. The point of dressing well means you need to look the part of what you are talking about. If you're at a fitness conference talking to people about being in shape and being fit, you better be fit. So when I say dress well, I mean this in a metaphorical sense, not literally. I do mean it literally, but it also applies metaphorically. If I'm going to go to a fitness conference and talk to a bunch of people who work in the fitness industry about how they can better do their business, even if I'm not talking about fitness itself, about the business side of it, I should probably be in shape, because people will be looking at that like, wait a minute, this guy is fat and out of shape, but he's talking about how to run a fitness business. There's an incongruence there. There's an incongruency between what I'm talking about and who I'm talking to and how I'm presenting myself. That matters. And even though maybe nobody will say anything, nobody may point it out directly to you, incongruency is going to cause people to not hear what you have to say because you don't look the part of what you're talking about. Everybody understand what I'm saying? You have to look the part of whatever it is that you're going to talk about. When you get on a stage, and a stage can be on the internet, a stage can be in person, that you need to look the part. All right. Do you look like what you are telling people about? All right. Are you representing what you are sharing? And in short, I would say, as a person on a stage, be the best dressed person in the room. Nobody in the room should be dressed better than you. If you're going to be talking in front of an audience of people. And again, there are different industries, different things. If you're talking about anything related to business, success, prosperity, money, growth, development, ascension, achievement, if you're going to be talking about any of those things, if you're going to be on a stage, you should be the best dressed person in the room. You should outdress your audience. That's what we call that. Outdress the audience, especially if you're talking anything business, prosperity, growth, and development related. You should look better than everybody in the room. Again, so you look the part. Again, it has nothing to do with what you say. It does have something to do with what you say, but I'm just separating this. You need to look like whatever it is you're talking. You're going to talk to people about growth and getting better, but you need to look like somebody who is a better version of where they are. You need to look like, even if you're not, you need to look like you are. Because again, this is an unspoken conversation that's going on in the minds of your audience. They are evaluating and judging you on every single thing that they can see. And if you don't look like a person if you don't look like success, why would someone listen to you about success? It doesn't make any sense. Well, they won't. And again, you do this to people all the time, even if you don't realize that you're doing it. You need to look like whatever it is you're talking about. That doesn't mean if you're going to do a live stream, you got to have a suit on. I could be doing this with a t-shirt on if I wanted to. The point is, however you're presenting yourself, your energy, your aura, your presence needs to look and sound like success. That is part of your eye contact. That is your energy. That is your tonality. That's the words you're using. Everything behind what you do, people are evaluating and judging this at all times. And if they don't believe you, they will not listen to you. Simple as that. All right, this is part of your nonverbal communication. How you dress and present yourself says a ton about who you are and how you want to be perceived. So someone said this to me when my first experience in business, when I was maybe in college. This person on stage, he said, "You need to dress how you want to be addressed." And I want y'all to take that one with you. You need to dress how you want to be addressed. You want to be addressed as a professional. You need to dress like a professional. What is the uniform of a professional in your space? You need to know what it is, and you need to show up like that. If you don't know, ask someone who's a professional. All right, if I want to dress how I want to be addressed, how should I dress? What does that look like? What do I need to go do? What do I need to wear? What do I need to change? The way I'm looking right now, is this matching or is it not? If you don't know, go ask someone who's already where you want to be, or go find them on social media and look what they're doing. Look at them, look at you. All right, do you reflect how you want to be addressed? And look at the way people are addressing you right now. This is a simple one, easy litmus test. How are people addressing you right now when you are out and about doing your business? Do you want to be addressed like that? If the answer is yes, then keep doing what you're doing. If the answer is no, then you need to make adjustments. Dress how you wish to be addressed. Again, people are making snap judgments about you at all times just based on the way that you show up without knowing anything else about you. Are you getting the type of response from people that you want to get? If you don't like the response, then change the inputs, change the way that you're showing up. I did a video on YouTube a couple of years ago. This is I'm recording this in 2024. It's about 2.5 years ago. That's when I started wearing suits like every day. I don't wear suits every day. And I said in that video that I used to have people, I would see people in the elevators, like in my buildings. I always live in the elevator, and they would say, "Well, you look like a basketball player." I go to the Whole Foods. People say, "You look like a basketball," and I'm a basketball player, but I'm basketball, and people would still say to me, "You like a basketball player," and I was. So I'm not mad at people having that assumption, because that is who I was. But nowadays, I'm a professional. I'm an entrepreneur. I own a business. Athlete is not the number one thing on my resume. Number one thing on my resume right now is that I'm a business owner. But I didn't like people, their initial snap judgment of me was athlete, and then they found out that I ran a business. So I started wearing the suits because it changed the perception that people had of me. They see me now and people say, "Well, you run a business, you like a professional, you like some entrepreneur, you like you maybe be in the C-suite of some company," and it's a different perception based on the way that I'm showing up. Now, some people respond to that and say, "Well, just because you have a suit on doesn't necessarily mean you're a business person," and you are correct. A suit does not make you a business person any more than a pair of Jordans makes you a basketball player. However, the perception does matter. Does perception matter? Of course it does. All right. This is the reason why we look in the mirror before we leave the house in the morning, all right, which all of you do, I would guess. All right. And you do that for a reason, because you want to give off a certain perception, a certain energy, and you want people to make certain assumptions about you. If you put on makeup in the morning, if you wash your face, if you brush your teeth, if you make sure your clothes are clean and pressed, then that's because you unconsciously understand that you are being observed and judged by other people based on the way that you show up. Whether you're doing it, you can talk about it, articulate it the way that I am, or you don't. You're still doing it for a reason. And even when I was running my business, I stopped playing basketball in 2015, and I've been running the business ever since. Most of those years, I was not wearing suits. I was still running a business. You could be a successful business person without putting a suit on, and you could be an athlete. An athlete can still wear a suit too. Like, you see athletes sometimes when they go to the games, they have suits on, but there's a uniform for your space. All right. That's what you need to find out what that is. And this is based on the perception of the people who you're trying to serve and influence. People who you're trying to serve and influence, if they hear a term about a person, what is the expectation? If I tell you that the president of the United States, whoever that is behind that door over there, what do you think they're wearing? How are they dressed? If I tell you the president is a man, how do you think he's dressed? If I tell you the president is a woman, how do you think she's dressed? There's a certain expectation of the way that they show up. Look at the way that you see President Biden or Obama or Trump. The way every time you see them, look how they're dressed when they're doing official work. Let's just say. Let's not saying when they're golfing or on vacation. When they're doing official work, there's a uniform. All right, there's an expectation. When you see Kamala Harris, every time you see her, there's a uniform. All right, there's an expectation of that position. What is the expectation of what people expect to see when you look at someone in your position? All right, let's move on to point number 5. We are talking here today about things that you need to do to be a better public speaker. Point number 5, prepare, prepare, prepare. If we're just talking about the speaking part of public speaking, this is the key. Preparation is the key to successful public speaking. As the saying goes, perfect prior preparation precludes perfect performance, or perfect prior preparation prevents poor performance. High-level performers, folks, are always prepared ahead of time. Simple as that. High-level performers are always prepared ahead of time. No professional shows up to the job and figures it out once they get there, if they know about the job at the time. Now, the job just got thrown in your face when you got there. That's a different story. But most of the time when we're public speaking, you know you're going to be public speaking before it happens, right? Any of you ever gave a speech and you didn't know you would be called on to give a speech? Maybe. Most of the time, you know it's going to happen. You know that you're going to be giving a toast at the wedding. You know that you're going to be giving a speech at the sales meeting. You know that you're going to be speaking at this conference that's coming up tomorrow. You know that it's happening. So you show up ready to do the job. Always be prepared ahead of time. The more you are prepared ahead of time, the less you need to worry about what you're going to say. The more energy you will have, because you're not focusing on what am I going to say. You can focus your energy on giving to the audience. And confidence is an outward energy, whereas self-consciousness is an inward energy. And when you give energy, you get energy back. That's just the law of the universe. So the more you know your stuff, the better you will be able to perform and do the things that you are doing. So preparing ahead of time. Any of you going to be a professional speaker or a public speaker? I don't care if you're speaking at Toastmasters or you're just giving a eulogy at your grandma's funeral. Prepare ahead of time for what you're going to say. Simple as that. Point number 6. We're talking here today about public speaking skills. And by the way, I'll answer all questions at the end. Anybody got a question or comment, put it in the comments section and I'll address them. Point number 6, know your audience. Know who you're talking to. Know your audience. Who is your audience? Who am I talking to? What do they want? What are their challenges? What are they expecting from me? What do they need? What questions do they need answered? These could be a lot of different questions you ask depending on who you're talking to. So if you're doing let's say a sales presentation to some Fortune 500 company, you're trying to sell them your software, you need to know your audience. The better you know them, the better you can tailor your presentation. If you're speaking at, again, somebody's funeral or a graduation party, that's a different audience. If you're speaking at a wedding, there's a different audience. If you're giving a speech about, you give a motivational speech to some salespeople, that's a different audience. The better you know the audience, the better you can tailor what you're going to do. If you don't know the audience, doesn't mean you can't possibly do something. But again, that's part of the preparation. If you know what's happening ahead of time, usually you have some idea, then you have a framework from which to work. And professionals always work with some framework ahead of time from which they can work. And I'll address questions at the end in 1 second. This is the last point. So we're talking, again, knowing your audience. When you know your audience, you can do things like you can drop little notes. You can drop little anecdotes. For example, if you are speaking to an audience of people who are, they're football fans, you can say something about the local football team. Or if you know that something big happened in their town, you can mention that thing that happened in their town. Or if you know that it's the boss's birthday, you can mention the boss and make a joke about the boss in front of the boss. So knowing your audience allows you to drop little notes. You can drop little anecdotes, little things that let them know that you have done the work ahead of time for what you're going to do. And people respect when you have done the work ahead of time. People respect and they can tell when you have thought about them before you showed up to do your thing. And you can show them that by, again, little things that you drop into whatever you're doing. So whenever I do a keynote speech, for example, I always talk to the organizer, the person who is hiring me, about who their audience is, what their audience needs, what challenges are they dealing with, what questions do they need answered, so that somewhere in my presentation, which, look, a good amount of my presentation may be material that I can use anywhere, but then some of my presentation, I'm going to mix in some things that are specific to that audience. That is part of my preparation. That's part of the work that I do ahead of time. And by the way, all professionals prepare ahead of time for what they do. Nobody who's a true professional just shows up and tries to figure it out as they go along, even though as professionals, we are usually good enough to do so. We don't do it anyway. So with all that out the way, let me recap these 6 points. You got a question, put it in the comments. So 6 essential keys to great public speaking. Number 1, speak about a topic that you know very well. Number 2, have experience in the thing that you're talking about. Talk about things in which you have real life experience. Number 3, actually care about the subject. Passion and energy matters. Number 4, dress well, look the part of what your audience is expecting of someone in your position. Number 5, prepare ahead of time. Every professional is always prepared before they do things. Number 6, know your audience. Know what your audience wants, know what they need, know what the challenges are, know what questions they need answered. All right, any questions or comments, put in the comment section right now, and I will address them. Let's look at TikTok first, and we'll go to Instagram. You got a comment on IG, go ahead and post it. TikTok still has this issue with this very small area that I got to scroll. Question is, best book for personal development. My favorite book on personal development, I will go with The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. And then the second one, I will go with Work on Your Game by Baldwin, which you can see right there. You can get that book at workonyourgamebook.com. But there are so many books on personal development. I wouldn't read just one. I'll read as many as you can find. Even the ones that may not be that good, if you get one thing out of it, then it's useful. Hamza says, how do you address nerves? Well, it depends on what the nerves are for, but one way to address anxiety about anything is to prepare ahead of time. It will lower your anxiety. Somebody asked, I'm not addressing that one. So again, you got to be on the topic, folks. Questions or comments, put them in the comment section. I'll address them in 1 second. I'm just scrolling through TikTok, which is, again, still a little bit challenging to scroll through because they got this small area and then they put all these notifications in there. Instagram does the same thing, but Instagram space is a little bit bigger. Going. Question is, no, it's not a question. Question is how do you define success? Each person can define their own success. Question. Any recommended books for a law school graduate? Ask your teachers. I didn't go to law school. Are you trying to go become a lawyer? Maybe read some books on that. Let's see. Anything else? All right. So let me see what we got on Instagram. You got a question on Instagram? Go ahead and post it. I don't think I saw any. Tukey Famous will be sending you a DM about the university. So it says Super You. Yes, you can have a confidence in yourself and know that your voice matters. Super You is this yellow book right here behind me. If you're on TikTok, it is right there. That book right there called Super You. That's all about confidence. So the question is, do you use Periscope? Does Periscope still exist? I don't think Periscope exists anymore. If it does, I'm not using it. I just told you. If it doesn't, use Periscope when it first came out, like 2015. But then Periscope, I believe, got absorbed by what was then called Twitter. And then they made it into, I think they pretty much designed it. But if it still exists, I didn't know about it. So question, if you know, I don't know. I don't know if Periscope still existed. We are wrapping this up. We got 2 minutes on. Am I going to be up there for maybe a couple days? But all of these lives will be to the back end of university. That is the link in my bio on wherever any of you is following this on YouTube. Also, working in university after we take them down. So if you don't see these when they're live, you got like a window. It's inside of workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's that. Everybody have a great Monday.